talking Dynasty waiver wire and all of the crazy news around the NFL today on Locked On Dynasty.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Matt Williamson and Ryan McDowell.
Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Welcome to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan McDowell. You can follow me on Twitter at RyanMC23. Joining me, as always, is Matt Williamson. Find Matt on Twitter at WilliamsonNFL. Matt, how's it going today?
Going great. How about you?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah, okay.
It felt like a dark week around the league. Just so many injuries. We've been kind of lucky when it comes to injuries this year so far through the first 6 weeks. And of course we had some serious ones. Javonte Williams was a tough blow to dynasty managers, and Trey Lance as well. But it hadn't been the headline that like it was in week 7. And the news just keeps coming. Players out multiple weeks, players out for the season. We're going to talk about most of those today, but just a rough one.
Yeah. So that in turn gives us a jam-packed show. So let's dig right in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty to talk about, especially when it comes to the Dynasty waiver wire. As we always do, we will go position by position here. We'll start at quarterback. Not quite as much here. Most of those injuries were at other spots other than quarterback. Ryan Tannehill for the Titans did leave the game briefly, came back in. Doesn't seem like he'll miss much time, or maybe no time at all. But this is the second time this season we've seen Malik Willis in action. He got some time in a blowout earlier in the year, and I don't know, maybe in that division the Titans still have their sights on winning it. It's so ugly, but I just wonder when it's time to start adding Malik Willis. He's certainly rostered in Superflex leagues already, but if you're in a one quarterback dynasty league, I think I would be trying to get ahead of the crowd and go ahead and stash him.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of deeper one quarterback leagues. He's already out there. Probably some people even use second round rookie picks on him. Mm-hmm. Maybe they've dropped them since, who knows? But if he's out there, I would definitely grab him because just his style of play, as we know, is very, very fantasy friendly in a young Jalen Hurts type of manner. You know, I mean, even while he's learning, he has value and is even a starter possibly. So, yeah, I would be all over him. And the thing hurting him is what you mentioned is the Tennessee's probably the front runner to win that division now. So they're not going to bench Tannehill probably no matter what.
Well, one quarterback from that division that was benched, this came down yesterday. Matt Ryan has lost his job, and Sam Ehlinger going to take over. This is not a guy who came into the league with much fanfare. They sure wish they had a better option at backup quarterback. If they did, this probably would have happened sooner. But the announcement was moving forward. The rest of the season, Sam Ehlinger is going to be the starter. Obviously barring injury. You know, he's a super flex ad because he's a starting quarterback, but my expectations for Ehlinger are pretty low. What are your thoughts on Ehlinger, on Matt Ryan? Is this kind of it for Matt Ryan? Is this how we see his career end?
I think so. I mean,
it feels like it, right?
It really does. He's had one good game, and that was 2 weeks ago. He was horrendous this past week. Can't really protect himself, doesn't trust himself in the pocket, turns the ball over way too much, doesn't create any big plays. Great career, but that's a wrap. I mean, I think you can cut him in all formats. I mean, I guess not super flex, but I mean, and I don't have much hope at all for Ehlinger. And this kills Pittman, I mean, all the Colts now to me are bad. Is this a Colts tank job? You know, trying to get next year's quarterback?
I'm not sure. Again, in that division, it may be a below 500 record that actually wins the division. So I'm not sure if it's a tank job. I mean, some of the reports that came out suggested Jim Irsay and the ownership there was just frustrated with Matt Ryan, as as anybody watching that Colts team would be. So
they seem to get frustrated quick though too, that organization.
That is true. That is true. But I mean, in this case, it's understandable.
It is.
They've had the rotation of quarterbacks. Matt, I don't know if you saw my tweet a few weeks ago listing the future Indianapolis Colts quarterbacks. They've kind of hit on a trend here of getting these retread quarterbacks, Phillip Rivers a couple of years ago, Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan. So I just thought it would be funny to list the quarterbacks through the next decade. I think next was Tom Brady next year. Tom Brady.
Okay, sure.
And we'll see Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson show up there eventually. And obviously that was tongue in cheek, but the Colts have kind of brought some of that on themselves. I saw RG3 say on Twitter today that they still haven't gotten over Andrew Luck's retirement. And that is so true. They haven't figured out quarterback since that surprise announcement several years ago. So yeah, I mean, grab Ellinger in your super flex league if he's not already rostered, but keep the expectations in check.
100%. But you got to pay attention.
Yeah. You got to move forward here. Let's talk running back. A couple of interesting guys at the top here. And in most leagues, I think these guys are already rostered because we got some late week news last week that would have led to them getting picked up. Now, I know I have a couple of leagues that the waiver wire is not open. It runs once a week and it's locked the rest of the time. So if you're in a league like that, maybe Gus Edwards is still sitting out there on the waiver wire. We didn't hear officially that he would be active until Sunday morning. He was active and basically served as the clear lead back for Baltimore. We also had J.K. Dobbins placed on the injured reserve last week. So the assumption is this is Gus Edwards' job for the next month, at least, maybe even longer. He ran hard on Sunday and looked very strong. 16 carries, 66 yards, couple of touchdowns. And Baltimore gets the win there. Thoughts on Gus Edwards?
Yeah, they've needed stability in the backfield. I mean,
yes.
Drake isn't, they were hoping that'd be Dobbins. Injuries changed that. That's all. That's the best thing I can say about it. Stable, trustworthy, tough, understands exactly what they're all about. I think he's a fantasy starter now. I also want to caution people that I think the Browns' run defense is the worst in the league, and he still only rushed for 66 yards. So
okay.
If you're getting offers, you might want to consider it.
You're taking any second for Gus Edwards, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The other situation and the biggest news of the week, some of the biggest news of the season came down on Thursday night. The Christian McCaffrey trade to San Francisco. We'll get your take on that one soon, Matt. But in Carolina, that leaves Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard. They shared the backfield on Sunday. Both had very nice games against a fading fast Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Foreman ends up with 118 rushing yards, couple catches for 27 yards. Hubbard, 63 rushing yards and a touchdown, couple catches for him as well. He also suffered an ankle injury, so that's going to be one to watch. But again, if your waiver wire was already locked after Thursday night, both of those Carolina backs are going to be near the top of your wish list. I don't know if we should have super high expectations for these guys. I mean, despite that win, this is still a bad football team. They're still going to lose and be far behind, I think, in the majority of their games. I don't know that I'm looking at either Foreman or Hubbard as anything more than flex options.
Right. I 100% agree. I also think that, especially now with all these extra picks, they'll probably use a third-round pick on a running back, if not higher. I mean, these guys won't be the starters next year. They'll be back to where they were, as fighting for time. I think they consider Chuba the starter, but I think Foreman's the better player.
Chuba, obviously younger. Foreman had a nice season taking over for an injured Derrick Henry a year ago, so he could get that shot again. Again, both of those guys, if they're still out on your waiver wire, should be priority ads this week. Matt, when we come back, I want to get your thoughts on Christian McCaffrey and his new team.
Now, a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. A big thing with BetterHelp is focusing. Instead of focusing on problems, they want to focus on solutions. And there's been many times in my career, hey, when we all got fired by the Browns, I mean, there's a great example. But with a different mindset, you can really figure things out much better with this therapy. And I think therapy is something that everybody should get involved with. And the people with BetterHelp are phenomenal in that way. So if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, it's accessible, affordable, entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey, and then switch therapists anytime you want. So there's plenty of options there. When you want to be better problem solver, therapy can help get you there. So visit betterhelp.com/lockedon, all one word, today for 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon. Folks, I've also told you about LinkedIn Jobs quite a bit as well. And it's so easy to create a free job post on LinkedIn, whether you're looking to hire or you're looking to change careers or advance in the career you're in now. So simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and expertise, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. You want to finish this year strong with the right team, and this group will certainly help you do that. LinkedIn Jobs. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helped you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply.
Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Matt, let's go back to the running back position. As I said, the big news came Thursday night during the first game of Week 7 when the Christian McCaffrey trade was announced. Now, I know when we were on this show last week, on this waiver show, you threw in, don't forget to add Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard in case there's a trade.
Yeah.
And at that point, I thought a trade of Christian McCaffrey was unlikely. We had heard that the Carolina Panthers were looking for multiple first-round picks, and I certainly didn't think that would happen. So I thought maybe at that point he would stay. And of course, instead, they get multiple day 2 and 3 picks over the next 2 seasons. And that obviously was enough for them to make the move. We talked about the Carolina end of things with Foreman and Hubbard, and obviously they're trying to stockpile picks looking ahead. But talk about McCaffrey's fit in San Francisco from a scout's point of view.
I think if you look at him like a traditional running back or a traditional Niners running back, Mostert, or these straight ahead McKinnon, these straight ahead guys, it doesn't seem like a good fit. But I honestly think McCaffrey might be closer to Deebo Samuel than he is Raheem Mostert or Elijah Mitchell or somebody like that. Like, I think they look at him as a weapon. And knowing what Kyle Shanahan likes to do, he just wants to put people in conflict. And if they can put a 5-man group of skill guys out there of McCaffrey, Juszczyk, who's very important to them and can actually carry the ball as well as block, Kittle, who does so many different things, Deebo, who also can carry the ball and block and is nasty, and Ayuk, that's hard to deal with. I mean, most people would think you just put your base 3-4 or 4-3 out there against that, and then they're going to go empty on you. So it really puts you in a bind. He looked great. I mean, his production wasn't awesome this week, but he's certainly spry, and I think he'll put up big numbers.
Yeah, flexibility feels like the word of the key word for San Francisco, because really all of those key players, those weapons, can kind of do it all or do multiple things. Right. I mean, we know about Deebo. We know McCaffrey is, maybe as good of a pass catcher as he is a runner. It's going to be fun to watch that play out. I think it's a boost for McCaffrey, even if there are some of those questions about how he'll be used, or will they use multiple running backs still, or how does Elijah Mitchell fit in when he comes back? For me, it boils down to Carolina was a terrible offense, and San Francisco is a much better offense, if not one of the best in the league, and one of the best coached in the league. So I think it's a good thing for McCaffrey. I think it boosts certainly his short-term value in production, but his dynasty value as well.
I 100% agree. And this isn't really a fantasy nugget, but I absolutely think that, I know they just got beat bad by Kansas City, but it helps them compete for a title this year. But as important as that, if not more, I sure think it makes, Trey Lance's life next year much, much easier. And think about that 5-some I mentioned with Lance as a quarterback. You have like 4 of your 6 are really good ball carriers.
Well, I mean, you look at, and again, they took a tough loss on Sunday,
Sure.
but you look at the NFC, and outside of the Eagles, who are just rolling, I mean, who's the second best team in the AFC or in the NFC?
Maybe Minnesota. I think
right. A case can be made for Minnesota. A case can be made for Dallas, but this is their play to be that team and eventually win a Super Bowl. That's their obvious plan. Let's finish the running back conversation with some tough news. Rookie Breece Hall, who we were loving, we almost as a unanimous dynasty community had boosted him up to the RB1 in dynasty overall after just 6 weeks. He suffers the torn ACL on Sunday. He is going to miss the rest of the season. We're going to get into some running back talk a little bit more on tomorrow's show, but obviously just a devastating loss for the Jets, devastating for Breece Hall himself, who was off to an awesome start to his career. And then much further down that line is us fantasy players and dynasty managers who now need to figure out what to do without Breece Hall and how do we really value him moving forward. The immediate decision is go grab Ty Johnson off your waiver wire. We certainly assume Michael Carter will be the starter for the Jets. We also assume he's rostered in nearly every dynasty league. If he's not, he's the number one priority this week. But in most dynasty leagues where guys like Michael Carter are on a roster already, Ty Johnson is the next option. Played a nice role last year and really for the past couple of years for the Jets. He ended up with 4 finishes as the top 20 running back in 2021. Nice pass catcher out of the backfield. So he can be a flex option, and, knock on wood, if anything were to happen to Carter, we would see some significant time for Ty Johnson. But go back to Breece Hall and just your thoughts on the whole situation, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there with Javonte Williams' is most devastating things you could hear as an owner for, dynasty purposes. But even unlike Williams, his offense was showing a lot of signs of life. They were dedicated to him. Yeah. He looked like offensive rookie of the year already. The offense was going through him highly efficiently, and he was passing every test. I mean, without question. I think Johnson's a must pick up. I mean, he's going to play every week. Carter will get a huge bump in usage, but I don't know that he's going to be a 80% snap guy or anything like that. I mean, he's not the biggest guy in the world. Right. And the beauty of Johnson, too, is you're one injury away from him being the bell cow, probably.
Yeah, Johnson, as I said, probably more suited to be that pass catcher. I don't think he wouldn't do well with that role to himself. I think he's always going to be a piece of a committee, part of a committee, but still could be an important part for sure. Matt, we've got a lot of wide receivers to talk about. Most of these are injury related as well. The one that's really not is Darius Slayton of the Giants. After all the moves they made, this is a guy who was kind of given up on and forgotten. But he's popped up with a couple of nice games, ended up with 58 yards and a touchdown on Sunday as the Giants beat the Jaguars. Wan'Dale Robinson is definitely the guy to have there in that offense. But he's not on your waiver wire. Darius Slayton might be, and at worst is going to be the second option in that offense, I think. So look for Slayton on your waiver wire. And then the injuries start piling up again. Mm-hmm. Mike Williams was the next one to suffer a injury. Sounds like a high ankle sprain for him. He's going to miss multiple weeks, according to his head coach. And this Chargers team, man, wow, I mean, JC Jackson done for the year as well. I don't know what it is. Every single year, the Chargers with these devastating injuries. And I don't know if we have to go that far with Mike Williams in the ankle, but he's going to miss some time. Keenan Allen just finally getting back in the lineup.
He didn't do
Josh
anything.
Palmer.
Right.
Yeah. Josh Palmer has missed some time. Really, if you play for the Chargers, you're probably going to miss some time with an injury. DeAndre Carter has taken advantage of his playing time opportunity. I expect he will continue to do that with Williams gone. But I mean, he's not the type of player that Williams is. They don't. Maybe Josh Palmer slides into that role, and Carter's playing mainly out of the slot.
That'd be my guess.
What they're going to do.
Yeah, that'd be my guess. I think Palmer's more of an outside guy. They seem like a team that should trade for Chase Claypool or Jerry Jeudy or, I mean, I know that's in the division, but things aren't going well. You didn't even mention Bosa and Slater. And I mean, those injuries that aren't fantasy related. I guess Carter's relevant. I mean, I'm not doing jumping jacks over that either.
No, he's your wide receiver 3, a flex guy at best. Mm-hmm. But again, with so many injuries piling up, we've got some more of them to talk about. We'll do that right after this.
But first, folks, let me tell you about Prize Picks. We have talked a lot about Prize Picks. I've made some good bucks on Prize Picks. We got the beauty of it to me is you're not playing against other people that might just get lucky and beat you. You know what I mean? Like I've got a bunch of entries, and it's really just me against the lines that they set. And what you do is you pick between 2 players. And if they score more or less than their Prize Pick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any of your entries. So, again, I don't love competing against other people. It's just me versus projections. I feel like I'm a little bit more in control that way. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport you watch. I mean, of course, NFL and basketball and MLB and hockey and PGA and college football, but all the way down to NASCAR and esports and cricket and Euro basketball and women's college sports. It's anything you want. Tennis. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. I mean, they trust me, it takes no time, not even close to 60 seconds. Safe and fast withdrawals. They're currently operational in over 30 states as well as in Canada. So here's what you have to do to make this happen. Download the Prize Pick app or go to prizepicks.com and sign up to play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100, 100% instant deposit with our promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $10, they'll give you $10. Don't forget to enter our promo code Locked On.
All right, Matt, let's finish up with this waiver wire talk. Several other wide receivers to consider. We also saw DK Metcalf go down with an injury. Not a lot of information on that. Sounds like it's not quite as bad as it was first thought or assumed. Knee injury, not going to need surgery. Could miss some time, but the comment I saw was that he's pushing to even practice this week, and maybe he doesn't miss too much time. Marquise Goodwin had a big game with some increased playing time, 4 catches, 67 yards, and a couple of scores. I mean, we know the story there in Seattle. They have very little depth at the receiver position behind Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So these guys who don't sound like household names in Dynasty or long-term Dynasty assets are going to get a shot here. Goodwin's one of those. Dwayne Eskridge is maybe next in line for that. He didn't do anything on Sunday, but obviously if DK misses some time, somebody's picking up the slack there.
I assume they're going to have to get Eskridge geared up. I mean, I liked him coming out of school. He just hasn't done much. Goodwin's been flash in the pan. I mean, we know what type of player he is too. He's a speed merchant.
Well, I mean, the thing is Goodwin, Eskridge, are and really Lockett still are those speed options, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they don't
smaller, faster.
Right. They're all kind of the same guy. So they don't have anybody on that roster that looks like DK Metcalf. Not many teams do. Another injury for the Green Bay Packers. They lose Randall Cobb a couple weeks ago. On Sunday, Alan Lazard goes down with a shoulder injury. His arm is now in a sling. His status moving forward is obviously in doubt for sure. Amari Rodgers is the guy who saw some additional playing time. Didn't do much with it, honestly. A couple catches for 14 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. This is probably an offense to stay away from at this point.
It really seems that way. I liked Rodgers coming out of school, but I mean, he's had plenty of opportunities to do anything, and they never seem to show any faith in him. Yeah, I think I'm staying away from all those guys. They're another team that really screams, man, maybe we should offer something for Elijah Moore or, one of Judy or somebody like that.
Yeah, definitely some wide receivers on the trade block. The trade deadline is I think it's actually a week from today, Matt. Yeah, it's 1 week from today. So
right.
Maybe we'll be sitting here next week talking about some of these receivers who have been traded. Last guy to consider on the wide receiver waiver wire, Braxton Berrios. We saw Corey Davis, who'd been having a nice year, also suffer an injury in that Jets game. Elijah Moore's status is up in the air. We'll see if he can get back on the field soon. Hopefully he can. Tight ends, David Njoku with a high ankle. He's going to miss some time. Harrison Bryant is a really nice player. He's actually probably rostered in some deeper dynasty leagues already. And a nasty injury. Daniel Bellinger, the rookie for the Giants, with an eye injury. I don't know if you saw that one, Matt. But
I didn't see it live, but I heard. Yeah.
Poked in the eye, leaves the game on a cart with a bloody eye, a bloody face. Going to need to see an eye specialist, will need surgery, and the rest of his season is in doubt. That's how serious that eye injury is. Definitely scary stuff when you're talking about things like that. Chris Myriak is the next guy up. Definitely not a household name, but he's actually been getting some playing time, even with Bellinger kind of starting to come on here.
I don't know much about him, but somebody's got to catch passes there.
Yeah. I don't either, but as I said, they've been giving him some playing time from what I can tell, mostly a big blocker type, but he'll get a chance here, unfortunately, with Daniel Bellinger out. Thanks for making Locked On Dynasty your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights on Locked On, only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. That is it for today's show. Please make sure you download and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Remember to follow the show at Locked On Dynasty. You can follow Matt at Williamson NFL, and I'm Ryan MC23. We'll be back next time with more Locked On Dynasty.